Well, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Shavante Hope. This
And
is
I'm Evelyn Jean-Francois, and together we are the Dinner Party NYC.
The Dinner Party NYC is a business that it prides itself on bringing resources to Black women-owned businesses and giving resources that will uplift their personal and business lives. Tonight, we have our Food for Thought series, which is an educational platform to bring you all the information you need to help your business thrive and move forward.
I'm really proud of our Food for Thought. So give me a second to just brag about what we've done with Food for Thought since October 2022. We've been offering free peer-led education courses for the audience of the Dinner Party. And so far, it's been really dope because we have folks who are experts or professionals in intellectual property, business credit, financial planning, topics like those. Also content creation. And today we get to talk about something that's really, really dope, influencer marketing and brand partnerships. And that's a big deal for us because we just like to provide a variety of topics. But today's a bit special because instead of just one person sharing the expertise, we have two folks, two dynamic, beautiful Black young people who are joining us to share their experiences through their dialogue with each other. Sometimes you just got to tune in real quick just to pick up something or just to learn something new. So it's my honor and my privilege. So first, I'm going to introduce you to Asa Duggar. She's a host, she's a content creator based in Los Angeles, California. So she's 3 hours behind, and her flexibility, we are so appreciative for. She's she works full-time in influencer marketing. And outside of her 9 to 5, she's reaching an audience of over 19,000, where she intersects content and conversation around faith, influencer strategy, beauty, wellness, becoming in her 20-somethings. She's well-educated, and she's been a member of the American Influencer Council. And you might have seen her smile, those cheekbones on Neutrogena, L'Oreal, Lululemon, Create and Cultivate, BET, and Black Love Inc. So that's just a taste of her bio. It is worthy of all that she's done so far in her career. It's really dope. And the second guest that we have for the Dinner Party NYC, it's really dope to introduce to you Nigeria Ealey. Nigeria Ealey is an African-American designer, director, and entrepreneur born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Growing up, Nigeria has always been drawn to a wide spectrum of art, design, and fashion. In his early stages, he was drawing. Then he moved on to Long Island University, where he earned his bachelor's in fine arts and graphic design and 3D animation. After undergrad, he got his master's in media management, and he is the co-founder and creative director of Tier, a fashion and creative brand founded in 2014 while he was in college. Nigeria's expertise in his schooling, it's gotten him places, and he's successfully led innovative campaign events, initiatives, strategies, and partnerships for Tier, propelling the brand to new heights. And that's why we have him on the call as well, because we feel like both of their journeys, it's time. I think it's just an opportune time to hear both from them and get to learn from folks who are doing the work with us. Like before, when we connected on the call, we were on earlier with Nigeria and Asa, and everybody's a little worn. It's that time of the year. It's those quarters where you have to show up and work, and we're all in those stages, and it's just a great way for us to learn from each other. So that is the introduction to Asa and Nigeria. So put your reactions, put it in the chat, welcome them, make them feel warm, give them a lovely dinner party welcome. And right now we are going to run a poll question for you all just to check the temperature in the room. Because right now everybody's a little unmuted, everybody's muted. So let's check the temperature to see where we at and how familiar we are with both brand partnerships and influencer marketing. So Shavante is going to run the poll.
So we have 100% that are influencers or people that work with brands and partnerships. We have 56 that said yes, and we have 44 that said no. 100% answered what the struggle with landing partnerships or brand deals were for them. The biggest issues were crafting the perfect pitch and finding the right people to ask. Whether we have people who sell products or not, we have 44% that do and 56 that do not. and if anyone has ever successfully secured a partnership in the past. We have 67% somewhat successful, 22 not very successful, 11% at successful, and 0% at very successful. So hopefully we'll learn some things tonight that can change that last one. We can get a higher percentage there so that people can start to use the knowledge that they've learned from tonight in their future endeavors. We want to thank you guys for engaging with that poll. And now we're going to open up some breakout rooms. So the breakout question for the night is going to be, have you ever tried to partner with a brand? How was it? Successful? And or how was it unsuccessful? So I'm going to pop that question in the chat. And I'm going to place you guys in breakout rooms. So use these breakout rooms to get to know each other, to introduce yourself, to talk about anything that you might have going on. If there's extra time, we're going to give about 7 to 10 minutes. I'll send a notification when it's time to wrap those conversations up.
But y'all better unmute. This is your time. Respectfully, of course, but please, we put the breakout question in the chat. Just share your grievances, share your thoughts on the topic. And our goal, we want more of Shavante and Evelyn pairs. We want some trios and groups and teams. So if you hear something that somebody says that's piquing your interest, definitely connect and see what can happen. Hey, Sabrina. We're so happy that you joined us. Welcome to the Dinner Party's Food for Thought. Right now, we have separated all of our guests into breakout rooms for a bit of conversation. So that's why it looks the way that it does right now. But in just a few minutes, well, less than a few minutes, we're going to bring everybody back into the room. But we were having a conversation throughout all of the breakout rooms on have you ever tried to partner with a brand and whether it was successful. So we could talk about that right now with the seconds that we can have left. But we do want to welcome you to the dinner party. I'm Evelyn and Shavante is my founder. We are the dinner party and we're glad that you could join us. We do encourage cameras on if you're able, but if not, that's all good with us too. Definitely engage in the chat so we feel you, in the room.
Your presence, yes.
Yes, absolutely. I do apologize because I'm here with my daughter. I just got off of work, so that's why my camera is off, but I'm definitely here and engaging. And so I'm happy to be here. Thank you, ladies, for having me. And I haven't really partnered with many brands. I'm new to content creating and influencing. I've been doing it for about a year I started on TikTok and it took a while to find my niche and now I've found my niche and I think it's food content and recipes and doing food reviews and really getting that exposure for small businesses and Black-owned businesses. So that's where I want my main focus to be. The only brand that I really worked with was that I did a hair partnership with Dyson Hair.
Nothing too crazy, just big Dyson. What?
I was blessed enough, and the opportunity just fell into my lap, and I was blessed enough to do a part of their Hair Lab series where I was able to talk about my hair and some of the struggles I went through after having my daughter, because your body goes through a lot of hormonal changes and hair changes after you have a baby. And so I was hopefully able to inspire a lot of other women through telling my story of my pregnancy and about my hair and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely looking for more opportunities like that. And I'm looking for how I can build my brand to attract brands and more opportunities like that. So.
Well, there you go, girl. That's what the dinner party is about. You have just introduced yourself to everybody in the room and everybody heard about what you are pursuing. And we love that for you. It's opportunities like that. If you heard Sabrina say something that you also share and wanting to know, we are glad that you are in the room because you are in the right place to learn these things. So there's still folks who are coming in right now who weren't able to join the breakout room. But if you know your friend has said that she signed up and she's not in this chat, they're not in this chat, definitely send the link, send that email that we sent over a reminder email, share it with the folks that you know want to tap in. They just might have been a little not on time. That's all right. So without further ado, Asa, Nigeria, are you prepared to take the floor?
Yeah, let's do it.
Excellent. I'm going to
Join us
share.
for our first Hearty Conversation, everyone.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here tonight with Nigeria and the rest of you. We're going to be chatting all things influencer marketing and brand partnerships. And based on the demographic and different information that Shavante and Evelyn sent over, I really tried to curate this conversation around your guys' needs. Based on the poll questions and some of the things that we've heard in the small groups, I can already tell that this conversation is going to be pretty fruitful. So I'm excited to hop right on in. So let's get started. All right, next slide. All right, so let's hop and talk about influencer marketing and brand partnerships, because I feel like sometimes these two worlds get combined and can get confusing, can sometimes overlap, but also have their own worlds. So we're just going to talk about the differences and the similarities of influencer marketing. Influencer marketing leverages an influencer or a person of influence, usually known as content creators, to promote a brand's product or service, whereas brand partnerships is more of a collaboration between two or more brands or businesses that have some type of mutually beneficial relationship to co-promote, to bring two ideas to make it one, and to pretty much create a strategic alliance. So we've seen brand partnerships usually with the Super Bowl, with Cardi B and McDonald's, with a whole bunch of dope things in the culture that we see today. And then both of these things, the reason why they sometimes overlap is because they drive, promote, and impact our communities, culture, lifestyle, products, services, a persona. It definitely drives revenue. They help promote and impact problems while also find solutions. So although we're going to be talking about influencer marketing and brand partnerships, there's going to be a lot of times where we're kind of focusing on one over the other. So just wanted to add this slide so you guys are just very clear on what we're referencing when we're chatting through this conversation.
So screenshot this. You're definitely going to get this later, but screenshot it if you need to make it your screensaver, tattooed on your forehead, do what you got to do.
Yes. And we also, you guys want to stay to the end because we do have some leftovers for you guys to take home. These leftovers will be takeaways that you can take, but they have specific templates of what you can say to brands or to influencers if you want to pitch them. And we're ready for the next slide. All right. So we have Nigeria here. Okay. Yeah.
What's up?
Building.
We here.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel good. It is Wednesday. It is the middle of the week, you know. We here.
Yeah, we here with it.
It has been a busy month thus far, but we're striving through it.
Amen. We got good problems.
Yes.
So I would love to talk with you to just hear about your journey of building Tier and also just building your own brand as a person. I want to hear more about the Jack Daniel's Classic Remix, how that came about. I think that was just a dope cross collaboration with Jack Daniel's and Tier. And then I also want you to talk to us about Tier University and how that came about.
Yeah, definitely. So we can get started with Jack Daniel's. The way the Jack Daniel's partnership actually came about was like kind of crazy. So it was about December of last year. I attended my first Art Basel. I've always wanted to go for the last few years. And while I was there, I was at Soho House. I went to this event that was there. And one of my friends, I had seen one of my friends, he's from Brooklyn. And he was like, hey, somebody's looking for you. And I'm like, who's looking for me? Like everybody that I know is like sort of like around me, or they know how to like contact me. He was like, yeah, it's this guy from this like liquor brand. He wants to speak to you. And but my friend didn't mention what the brand was. I don't know if he knew what the brand was or not. He just said somebody wanted to speak to you.
Yeah.
I ended up not seeing the person, not speaking to the person there. But it was in the back of my mind because my friend was like, okay, I'll connect you out through email, things like that. Fast forward to, I want to say, late January. It was a day where I had like so many calls. I mean, not January, late December. It was a day I had so many calls and meetings. And Dev actually texted me and he was like, hey, do you got 30 minutes? And I'm like, oh, not really, but what's up?
Work, right.
And Dev was like, yeah, so this agency wants to speak to you about a Polite Tenchu collaboration with this liquor brand. I don't remember if he told me which brand it was yet or not, but I was like, you know what, Dev, I'm gonna take the call. This is the importance of like making time for any call.
Come on.
That's like a whole different story. But long story short, if it like especially comes from somebody that I trust near and dear, I'm gonna take the call, right? So Dev told me to take the call, and I took the call, and literally I was on the phone with the agency, the Jack Daniels team, spoke through everything, and I was already familiar with the classic remix because I had seen it the year prior when Ouija from Brooklyn Circus did it. So I was already familiar with the concept of it. I just didn't know the process of how they go about scouting people.
Right.
I didn't know. I just never really looked deeper into the program. But it was just interesting. It was interesting that they thought of me, and and when they told me the designer that would be like part of the collaboration, I'm like, oh, like this is cool, and basically for those who don't know what the Jack Daniels Classic Remix program is, it's basically a program where Jack Daniels funds up to $100,000 for up and coming designers.
Now that's money.
Specifically in fashion, right? So basically what it is a like grant program where they are like award 4 different people around 25K each, right? Sometimes it's 3 people, so it may be like bit more, but it was just like a beautiful moment. It was such a beautiful moment because not only was I getting a chance to partner with a brand that's ultimately 150 years old. This is Jack Daniels' 150th year in like business, but bigger than that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's same. Gotta go to Art Basel.
That's what I heard.
All in all.
Gotta stay tapped in, and we're also going to talk about that in the conversation today about like just not sleeping on those soft skills. I think that people see all of the great things happening on social media and don't realize that you do need to have the soft skills to be able to be humble enough to be willing, humble and flexible enough to take a call even in the midst of craziness and chaos, and to like being willing to just hear somebody out, because most conversations and most opportunities that come through, especially in the brand partnership world, they will not tell you the brand or the name simply because there's an NDA involved. There's some type of brand protection or identity involved. Sometimes it's intellectual property law that's involved, that they don't want someone to steal the deal. Someone could say, hey, I want to talk to you. If you have too much pride and ego to be like, who is it? Before you even take it, you might miss out on the opportunity.
Definitely. Sorry, y'all. Somebody just connected to my TV from a different studio.
Listen, technology.
That's scary.
But yeah, but to your like point, it definitely isn't like important to take those calls, because I like have this theory, right? Where it's like, you know, if I can squeeze in the time for anything, especially if it's from somebody that I trust, then it's meaningful. Whether I feel like the call went my way or it didn't go my way, whether I feel like it gave me knowledge or didn't give me knowledge, you know, because there's always something to learn in everything, right? But back to the partnership, I just think it was just a full circle moment, right? Because I wanted to work with a liquor and spirits brand, right? I had a list of different brands that I wanted to work with.
Right.
And ultimately, this was the first one that reached out to me. And I mean, well, not the first one to reach out because we've partnered with like liquor and spirits brands in the like past, but it was more so on the like event side, the sponsorship side, not really through a partnership where we're creating physical products, right?
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so dope because not only this is a brand that's been around for 150 years, it also had the aspect of the giving back to the like Zionists of color that's up and coming. And I just remember being that, you know, junior in college, starting a brand, not knowing how I'm gonna get funding, not knowing, you know, where this money is coming from, or just taking money from side jobs, or, you know, just the different things that we do to like get our business off of the like ground. So I think through that partnership, one, I seen opportunity, but I also seen purpose. And one thing that I'm big on when it comes to partnerships is I don't partner with anybody if there's not some type of philanthropy aspect or purpose to it, you know? And I think that's the big thing. It doesn't matter who the brand is, how much the brand net worth is, how long they've been in business, because also when you get into business, you'll also find a lot of the biggest brands don't have everything together. And I've had really great brand partnerships and I've had really terrible brand partnerships,
Right.
you know, but from the terrible ones, I learned what I will and won't do ever again, right? I learned, okay, you have to really understand the formality of contracts.
Mhm.
You have to understand the formality of NDAs, right? Because things that you may think is something that you could just say in passing or things like that can affect anything that you're doing.
Right.
Right. And not only can it like affect that thing, it can ruin your reputation in general. Because once again, you never know who knows who. Right. But partnering with Jack Daniels, you know, for me, I think this was one of our better partnerships, like, you know, like super great. Not only did they provide us with the resources that we needed monetarily and to like help us produce these like products, the cause was there. The cause was there and it made sense. And, you know, it was a tight turnaround, super tight turnaround, because the project launched April 6th, and they reached out in December. The product was supposed to launch in March. And I was like, at that time, I'm getting ready to travel to Europe. So I was like, I'm about to be gone for like 3 weeks. Now I gotta work on my vacation while I'm traveling to get these things done. But you know, we just got it done, you know, like we got it done. And it was a really, really, really cool partnership. And outside of that, you know, they also threw me a birthday party for my 30th, you know, so like they were really tuned in on like keeping the like relationship going and keeping it building. And those are the things that I look for in partnerships also, is like, what type of relationship is this going to be? Is this going to be a one and done? Is this going to be something that we can work now and work together in the future? Is this going to be something that we're putting a 2-3 year deal or contract on the table? Because once again, you know, a lot of people want to partner with brands and with companies, but like I said, I had said in one of the breakout sessions that we just had, the right partnership can make you and change your life, and a wrong partnership can cripple you and end your brand.
Absolutely.
And that goes from just by not doing the research on who the brand is, you know, what the brand represents, the brand's history, whether good or bad, right? Because a lot of brands have bad history. If a brand is over 50 years old, 10 times out of 10, they have some type of badness in their history.
Yeah.
right? And I think it's super and like important to leverage or to weigh out like what makes the most sense, right? Like, does this make sense for me now? Is this going to make me feel good? But what is the long-term impact of it?
Right.
And these are just all things to think about, and knowing what you can offer, right? I probably don't want to give too much in that because I don't know the other questions that's coming.
Yeah.
But just to stay on the topic of Jack Daniels, like this was, I can wholeheartedly say this was an amazing partnership. From the cause to the opportunity to what we were able to create to like gather, and ultimately the connections that was built through it, not only from the Jack Daniels side, but through the agency side and through the like designers that I got to meet and build with.
I love to hear that. And I know I asked you to talk on Tier University, but now I want you to hold it for another slide because like you said something that I'm like, oh, we gotta hit on that. We gotta hit on that. What's one thing I want people to drop in the chat, just one word that they got from what Nigeria just shared. And then we can go ahead and move to the next slide while we're waiting for people to drop that in the chat. Relationship, okay. Research, yes. Being in the room, there we go. Right, humbleness, humility, meaningful, purpose. Come on.
Let's go, y'all.
Answer the call. Oh, come on. Don't get us to preaching in here tonight.
You don't listen, you gotta answer those calls. I would tell you, and I don't know where everybody is here in this point in life when it comes to partnerships or just meeting people. But it was this one phone call that I missed in 2021. I still managed to make things happen, probably not after that phone call was missed, but just because life happens and people are busy. But literally one of my favorite artists called me after we had sent him a package, and he was just so in love with like the like clothing and like what he got. And he literally hit up one of his boys to find my number, found my number and called me, but it was like 1 o'clock New York time, and he was in LA, and I think it was like, what's that, 10?
And yeah.
And it was on like a Monday. I was probably 100% sleep.
Yeah.
Percent sleep.
Fire missed call though.
Huh?
That's a fire missed call though.
That was a fire missed call. The call was from Young Thug.
Oh,
Literally.
I'm sure you probably looked at that call log like, what?
I called him back. Literally, I called him back like 3 times and just texted him. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know this was you.
That's crazy.
But yeah, man, you gotta don't miss those calls.
dang. We're good to go to the next slide. So this is where I want to talk about Tier University, right? Because you just like we heard just in your intro that you did get your bachelor's degree, you have your master's, and while you were working on Tier in school, you're trying to figure out how you would get funding. Can you speak to us the importance of people over profit? Because I think that as a consumer on the outside looking in, you can tell that Tier does this for real for people beyond the profit. And I think that the storytelling and the impact and the originality is there. Like you can see that there's someone from Brooklyn behind this. You can see that somebody who was raised in a good home, like, with some morals and some values is behind Tier. So like, can you speak to us, like, what does prioritizing people look like beyond selling product? And I know that you guys had like courses you're working on, getting people to understand taxes and intellectual property and like understanding all the things outside of the creative world.
Yeah. I think for me, one, people over profit is something that people, I don't think, take serious enough. And it's funny because I have a tattoo on my right arm that I got when I was 16 years old. It was my first tattoo. I got it after a car accident because I didn't want to see a scar. But also I just wanted it. And the tattoo says wealth is in the mind and heart, not the pocket. And if anybody is familiar with Billionaires Boys Club ice cream, that was the slogan for the brand. And I just remember being a kid walking into the BBC ice cream store and not only smelling it, like the store smelled like ice cream, literally, like I never wanted to leave because like vanilla is one of my favorite scents. And it just smelled so good. But then as you walking up the stairs through this like out of space themed stairway, it's a big quote in lights that says wealth is in the heart and pocket, or wealth is in the mind and heart, not the pocket. And that stuck with me my whole life to this day, you know. And bigger than that, I always tell a lot of people, you know, because there's some people that just meet me and think Tier started in 2019 or Tier started in 2020 when they heard about it. You know, like people reference point is from when they hear like about things versus people who's known me since 2013, but like 4 Tier started, or 2014 when Tier started, or as a teenager when I was doing a bunch of other stuff, right? But one of the things that I've always led with in my life personally is people, right? And I think that comes from an inner thing. I've always been a self-fulfilling person, right? Like I've never needed people to like validate my thoughts, things that I do, whether they agree with it, don't agree with it, understand it, don't understand it. Like I've always been a self-driver. And sometimes that has helped me, sometimes that has crippled me. But I've always had this insane amount of belief in what I do. And I think it comes naturally because I don't do things I don't like.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say that is I don't do things that my heart fully isn't in. Right. But now if I had to do the hard work for something that I love, I'm willing to go through all the trials, errors, and everything because I'm doing it for something that I love. But with this mindset of, you know, like I've always had a mindset that I'm always going to be good. I've truly always felt like that, truly. But bigger than that, me finding who I was, like especially because I felt like I was an odd person to compared to like a lot of other people who, you know, at that age, at that time, are dealing with self-doubt, dealing with all these different things that young adults and teenagers deal with. You know, for me, my joy always came from making others happy because I could like I didn't really need people to make me happy. So for me, it was like, damn, how can I put a smile on somebody's face? Or how could I make sure somebody has a good time? Like I've always had this is also a thing where like I've always had this thing where I like take on people's problems. Once again, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's terrible. But I just like being there and I like helping and I like providing that like beacon and impact, right? Like if I can be this symbol for people who, you know, need more confidence or need more like awareness on things, you know, or really just need to focus, you know, like I always like being that like symbol. So what I tell people is that a lot of people don't know, like a lot of people that really know me or know me growing up don't know me from Tier. They know me from growing up in Brooklyn. They know me from having parties. They know me from having like events. They know me from joining a Greek letter organization, Kappa Alpha Psi. They know me from being on a like stroll team or being on a student government or making logos and flyers for people. So I've lived so many lives and done so many different things for so many different people to whereas like now Tier may be the premise overall because of how the brand has grown in scale. But once again, it's the people. People support Tier because they support who I was or what I've done or who Vic or Eastside was and what they've done and things like that, right? Yeah. And that's like people, right? Like I said, when you look at these big brands, you look at big artists, big anything, like a lot of people just have money, but they don't have the pull to bring people out, right? Which is why brands need influencers. Because they may have money because they probably built their brand 50, 30, 40 years ago. So they're sitting on the cash that they've like accumulated. It's becomes like, you know, like there's a certain point in every brand where if you do it good enough or right enough, it gets to its self-running stage, right? But then that's when you see that these brands, like they have the money, they still don't have the influence, right? Whereas like I know me, tier or not, me as a person, if I post on Instagram that I'm having a party, I can expect 500 plus people to show up.
Yeah.
Post that 2 days or a day prior, you know, so on and so on.
I
So,
think
sorry, you good.
I want to add in, I think that it's really dope that you even spoke to all of the different positions that you served in as you were coming up, because I think that sometimes being able to serve in student gov or being able to have a party where people pull up already shows the influence that you have in real life before it gets online. So sometimes if there's anyone listening who needs a reminder of what they've been called to do or what they can do, look back at your track record and your resume, at what you've done and how you put people in rooms together, or how you've been able to make someone smile at a birthday party, maybe because you made a cake or you have a cake business or whatever it may be. Like, pay attention to those other areas where you have those strengths, because you'll be able to kind of shed light on the main thing, whether if it's being an influencer or having your own business and working with influencers. You'll be able to use those skill sets in the same space as influencer brand or in brand partnerships.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, once again, I think it, like, even to what you just said, going back to those times where you have done something differently than what you're doing now, because no matter what, in each space in life, you meet people, you make these connections, you build these relationships. Like, I know people from all different lives that supports one common cause now, and that's Tier, right?
Yes.
But I know these people from middle school, high school, college, doing graphic work, working here, working there, like doing different things. All these people come from different lives, different steps of my life, even from the time when I was teaching. Like, I was a teacher for two years. I taught kindergarten to 4th grade art.
Wow.
And I can literally, all the teachers still call me, you know, and all the students, some of the students are in like middle school and high school, or like start up, no, they're like about to start high school soon. And I got friends that work in these schools that like, oh, you know, this student, they said you were their 4th grade art teacher or 3rd grade art teacher, like, you know, so it's like, you know, and now they're able to wear Tier and they're old enough now, or they see Tier, and whether it's on TikTok or Snapchat, or however kids consume content, or the teachers are coming to school wearing it, and now they want to be a part of the conversation, a part of what's going on, you know. So once again, there's like all these different walks of lives, all these different things that ultimately are like accumulate to one thing. And
Yeah.
that goes deeper than a like brand. Is what type of person are you? You know, how are you able to impact people? You know, and I think that's the biggest thing. You know, for me, once again, I've never seen a version of me in my life that wasn't successful, right? Whether, and trust me, I have the best of days and I have the worst of days. I literally had a whole like terrible last 2 weeks. Like, anything bad that you could think could happen to somebody happened to me. But I realized that these things are all a part of the process. I realized these things come with life. And as we grow in life and grow in the things that we're doing, it's important to like be you, because that's what people connect to. Because the profit, the funds are going to be there, right? But if you're solely doing it for profit, for funds, for money, like, people are going to see that,
Right.
you know. And that's not to say that money and profit isn't like important. We are grown. We have bills, we have obligations, we have people, we have lives we want to change, we have generational curses we want to break, you know. But it starts by being yourself, you know, and knowing what you offer to the world and constantly perfecting what you offer, right? Like, there's never a time where I'm not learning or researching. Like, I don't know if Dev is still on the call with you guys. They're like, I'm researching and learning and writing things down and building ideas so much. Like, I think it's unlike healthy sometimes. I have to ask them where it's like, oh, what do you think about this? Like, I'm at the point where like I have so many ideas that I have to start asking people, like, what do you think? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Things like that. And that's something I'm not used to, because I'm always used to just depending on my own like gut feeling and intuition and things like that. But I realized the space that I'm in life. Like, not only do I have to ideate, I have to manage, I have to direct, I have to run a business, I have to oversee partnerships and events and things like that, you know. So now that goes back to being a person. Is like the average person that has to deal with all these things may quit or may stop or may try to take easy way out, and once again, eventually people start seeping through their brands when the brand's not built or done right.
Yes.
That's the moral of the story.
And one thing you have said that has reminded me of the scripture, Romans 8. It's somewhere in Romans 8, don't quote me. It says that all things work together for good for those who love God. I'm pretty sure that's what it says in a nutshell. And I think that that's beautiful to see that God has been able to use everything that you've done, whether it was out of passion or out of just serving the season you were in, all to serve what you're doing today so that it can reach children in the classroom, so that it can reach artists who probably are getting mixed up in things that they shouldn't be mixed up in. Like there's a purpose beyond just the profit. And I think that as a creator and as a CEO, as long as we put people first, we will always be good. We can go to the next slide.
I think that's like really it. And I just wanted to touch on, because I'm not sure if I really touched on the Tier University topic all the way how I wanted to, like how it started. But for me, for those who don't know, on this beautiful graduation picture of mine, it says LIU Brooklyn. That is where I attended college for my bachelor's and master's. And LIU has just like this near and dear place in my heart. One, I grew up downtown Brooklyn in Farragut Projects. And if you're familiar with downtown Brooklyn, LIU is a straight walk up Flatbush from Farragut and Fort Greene and things like that. But not only that, it was not only was it in the area that I grew up in, but that's where my mom went and got her bachelor's and master's from. And then I went there and got my bachelor's and master's, and my little sister went there and she got her bachelor's. And then one of my cousins went there. I was like, well, and now my little brother he actually just finished his freshman year at LIU. And for me, that's legacy. One, it's just super deep for me because, when I started college, like literally the month that I started college was like the month that my mom passed. And I know that that's something that she wanted me to go on and do. And LIU played such an important part in who I am now. From the people that I met, from the organizations that I joined, even to Tier, like fashion is something that I've always wanted to do, but I'm not sure if Tier would have been here, like the actual name Tier, if I did not attend LIU. I knew I was going to have a brand some way, somehow, right? I was designing since high school. But LIU really was at home to me. And with Tier University, my biggest thing was creating a space that wasn't your traditional or typical college norm, but in the realm of fashion. So when it comes to fashion, it also isn't your traditional take on what collegiate wear is, right? I feel like every fashion brand does the same take on a collegiate lifestyle. And 9 times out of 10, they didn't attend college or go to a college. And for me, this was a moment to, one, educate people on a different art. So with Tier University, you have the School of Awareness, School of Generational Wealth, School of Art and Design, and School of Tech and Innovation. And for me, growing up, we were always taught that arts are secondary, right? It's always math, science, English, art is secondary. And that's never been it for me. I was always a creative person. And kind of highlighting those things, putting those inside the forefront, because these things that we were told that we weren't going to make money off when we were younger is the primary funding source. Influencer marketing is $1 billion business.
Yes.
A multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
People were told, oh, you're not going to get nowhere being on social media all day or making these videos or doing that.
And now
and now look how the times has changed. So I just think, one, from an awareness standpoint, it was super important, but also just giving back to Brooklyn and giving back specifically to LIU. Once again, I didn't have a fashion internship or job before starting Tier. Like everything was learned and figured out. And just seeing how many kids showed up and being able to involve students and staff in the runway show and inviting the community to campus, like it's actually pretty insane to book out a whole college campus for a fashion show. Like nobody's done that. So I'm super proud of that. And it was like a life-changing moment and just an impactful moment because, you know, I feel like I completed a full circle moment. Like for me, that was full circle. The same
Yeah.
that I was at 10 years ago, I've now able to book the whole campus and have a fashion show.
That sounds like a full circle moment. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about the Tier University line, like, because I feel like sometimes we have these ideas of like what we want to become, but don't think that like we're going to be able to pull where we came from into it until like far down the line. But I love that you even did that for the students who are currently there so that they can even dream of doing that one day. I know whenever I go back and walk the streets of my college and Kane University, like I'd be like, man, like this school helped me be who I am today. And when I talk to the students and when I see their smiles and I see their ambition, I see myself. And it just makes me want to go 10 times harder, especially for the Black students.
And I like a lot of the students still text me to this day, literally. Like,
Wow.
like the other day, one of the students just hit me up like, "Hey, bro, can we like catch up, chop it up? I like want you to like just check out some new stuff that I've been working on." You
Wow.
know?
So they have that point of reference, mentorship.
And you know, a lot of times, like I don't know how I figure out a lot of things, what I do, and then whether I have it all or not is going to happen.
Mhm.
You know, and that was the product of Tier University. You know, it's like no matter what, this had to happen. You know, like people have to see this. Like it's now or never. Like everything else will be figured out after. People have to see this now.
I love that. And one of the things I'm going to talk about in the next slide is 3 reasons why creators, and I even want to add CEOs, fumble the bag. My top 3 things is that they're uninformed, they're not willing to learn, they have the idea that they have in their head, they don't want to sway from it. They may have a creative idea, but don't understand the business operation side. Some people are inconsistent just because life be lifing, right? And then also too, there's just no sense of direction. There's no sense of bringing yourself into the ideas. And then rejection. A lot of people are afraid of rejection, have trauma from being rejected or coming up in abusive relationships or family. So can you talk about like some things that people need to have in order before they want to start, you know, reaching high pinnacles in their brand or in their business? Because I think that's really important. And you talked about sustainability, which I absolutely love. I feel like creators, we don't think down the line. So we do need to think sustainability. Like what does a partnership over time look like? So can you just talk about like, how do we not fumble the bag?
Yes. I always tell people above me being a CEO, me being a creative director, all these things, like I'm a strategist. That's one. Like I like to strategize. I like to plan. Like I write a lot. I research a lot. I just love learning. Like that's it. Because what I learn, I want to be able to apply, maximize, and pass on. You know, and people miss the maximize part because you always like, you just don't want to like learn something and go tell somebody else and now everything you told them is wrong based off what you learn, based off of what like you learned, because it's the experience part. Supposed to learn, experience, pass.
Yeah.
You know, so I think one thing here, you know, like I actually want to speak on all like 3 of these things. Is like one is the being uninformed, right? And the biggest way you can be informed is doing research, literally. And another way is utilizing not only your resources, as in like your gadgets, technology, things like that, but people. You know,
Yes.
and I've been having this interesting conversation with a couple of my friends over the last couple months, because a lot of us don't realize the contacts that we have inside our phones, right? Especially when it's down to the wire. Especially when it's down to the wire. And for me, I can look through my phone and see thousands of contacts, but how many people can I actually hit up to share an idea with? How many people can I actually hit up to plug me into the places that I need? Like literally, I just text one of my boys because I'm about to travel when I needed to get into this like place. And because we've built that relationship over these years, it was the 1, 2, 3 thing. You know, it was just quick. Not even 1, 2, 3. It was just one. It was just simple.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the importance of utilizing your resources and your relationships. It's like really vetting your contacts, really vetting who you text every day, really vetting like, how is this helpful for me? What type of conversations am I engaging in, right? Because I always say like, a lot of times people say that they want things that they don't really want. And I strongly believe that, where it's like having the idea of wanting something versus doing the work to get what you want are two different things.
Absolutely.
Right? And everybody has ideas, you know, just like there's a lot of talented people on the face of this earth that may or may not ever make it. And, you know, that goes into your mindset, that goes into your passion. These are all different things that people oftentimes don't realize outside of you having a skill, right? Outside of having a skill, like you need to have the right mindset. You need to be passionate about this thing, right? Because there are people that can probably sing that's just not passionate about singing, right? Does that mean that they should pursue being a singer? Probably not. They can sing, they just don't care to do it publicly.
Right.
Or in like front of people. So it's pinpointing who you are, what you are and aren't good at. And if you want to be better in this, where do you need to be? That's one. To better yourself, what do you need to research and who do you need to meet? Right. And I always say like some of the best conversations happen in person. Always.
Yeah. Always.
That comes like almost always.
Yes.
And I'm big on just speaking to people face to face. Like I'm a very energy-based person. Like I need to feel like I need to feel your vibe.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
Very much energy-based. So for me, and like person is always the best way. But also knowing when and like person, right? Like I'm about to be at a party chilling with my homeboys and about to start like a conversation about branding, right? But if we're at a networking event or a mixer or somewhere else where it makes sense for us to have this conversation, like these are the places you want to be at to have these conversations, to meet these people. And ultimately, the right relationships come with the right resources.
Yes.
Always the right.
Oh, somebody got to put that in the chat. The right relationships come with the right resources, please. Okay.
So, like that's literally the like main thing. But all of it comes from research. All of it, and not only research into other people, but research into who you are, research into what your brand is, researching into what you want your brand to be. You know, and then we get on to inconsistency, which is actually something that I tweeted about earlier, because I had posted a tweet earlier and I said, consistency without concentration is dysfunction, right?
Come on, let me find out. You got a gift to preach too. Hold on. Somebody put that.
I actually write down a lot of quotes. Trust me. Every time I think of something, I write it down and I like elaborate on it.
Got me taking notes, okay?
But I say that because like I would like to believe that I'm a consistent person. I think I'm very passionate about what I do. I think I'm very consistent in what I do. And I don't think I take breaks from things that I love. Even if I need to, right? And that's where the problem comes in, right? Because as humans, we need breaks. As humans, we need time to reset. As humans, we need time to recalibrate. As humans, we need time to think. We just need time to do nothing. We need time to reconnect with family, friends, anything, right? Because 9 times out of 10, what you're doing or is based off.
We don't need the shotgun.
I agree. I think it's a Black person thing though. We gotta spend every dollar we got.
Yeah. So I think just making sure that your consistency is also true to your moral compass, right? And making sure that being consistent, like not fusing being consistent with being dysfunctional. Those are two different things. And I can say that from experience because, like I said, I feel like I'm a consistent person, but there's times where I felt like I'm being consistent, but where am I going? Right. And this is the time, and then those are times where you have to stop, you have to pause, you have to take time back to yourself, take time to reconnect, take time to remind yourself why you do these things, remind yourself who you are, remind yourself where you want to go. So yes, being consistent, but being consistent with a plan. And being also knowing when it's time to adjust or reiterate or revise those plans. And when it's time to like just take time for you, you know. And I think the last thing on rejection, I have a love-hate relationship with rejection because I almost like it. And I like it because of the person that I am. Like I said, like I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very confident in the things that I do. And oftentimes when I hear a no, in my head is, okay, well, watch when I show you. Like that's literally like how my mind thinks. So, and I've heard way more no's than yeses. Like the ratio is probably not even comparable. But also in the same breath, there's not a lot of things that I ask for that I can't offer. And I think that's the bigger thing. And Tier has, Tier is turning 9 this year. Next year, it'll be turning 10. But Tier is almost making it to 10 years as an independent brand. Whether things were always done right, whether things were done wrong sometimes, it stood the test of time. Like most brands don't last to 3 years. Most brands don't last to 5 years. And with that came a lot of rejection. And if I let rejection get to me, or if I let, just people comments or thoughts or take on, because everybody probably would call Tier something different, right? Like there was a time where, I actually didn't like when people referred to Tier as just a streetwear brand. Only because I know like what I want Tier to be and where we're going and the magnitude and minds that's behind the brands. Right. But at the time, I also compared it to a scope of what I thought the public conceived streetwear as. Right. There was a time where people were like, oh, Tier is airport fits. Right. Oh, we can wear these sweatsuits to the airports. And at first it was cool. And after a while, I was like, damn, I don't want my brand to be called an airport fit brand. Right. So it's like all these things and all these people and all these minds. And it's like, it comes back to like, who are you and what do you want your brand to represent? And no matter who rejects you from a no or yes standpoint or rejects you from a standpoint of who you want to perceive yourself at, right? Because you can say, hey, I'm this in person, I'm this and that person, but somebody else can say, oh no, you're this and that. That's a form of rejection because I'm telling you who I think I am and you're telling me that I'm something different.
Yeah, that's so good that you touched on that. And for the people who just joined, I do want to repeat your quote that you had tweeted. It said, consistency without concentration is dysfunction.
Yes.
That's so good. Y'all, if y'all haven't written that down, please do. And I love what you said about if you would have listened to what other people said about Tier, you probably wouldn't have made it this far. There's a statistic that Forbes has put out there that most businesses do not make it past the second year or the third year, damn near the fifth year, because of lack of a plan, lack of consistency, and because pretty much there's always this tug of a war of a brand identity, right? So if you know who you are and yourself and you know what the vision is before other people finally get to see that and you're able to stand firm in that, you will see the success of your business. And I just want to say kudos to you, Nigeria, because 10 years is an amazing milestone. There's many more years to come. And shoot, we might actually get a Tier university, an actual university at this point.
I'm working overtime.
Yes.
I think it's super, super important in what you just said, because for me, I think that no matter what, the way I visualize things is I see things as if it already happened. right? So for me, it's just a matter of how do I get there? I've already been there. It's already happened. I sometimes, most times can visually like see it, you know, and it's like, what's the steps to get there? Like, all I gotta do is take the journey. That's it. And be okay with whatever the journey provides, right? Because like I said, sometimes your journey can go well, sometimes your journey can have hurdles, sometimes it can go terrible. You know, but it's the willingness, it's the taking of like initiative, and it's, you know, just the mindset. Like I said, like, don't do anything you're not passionate about, because like that will start to show. And it's been times where like I've seen 6-7 figures in an account, and there's been times where I've seen negative, you know, and I still have to figure it out, because life still goes on and things still have to move on, you know. So
yeah, we're good to move to the next slide. I'm gonna start shifting gears a little bit to just talk about how we could position ourselves strategically as creators and as CEOs. I think one of the things that we've heard Nigeria say is that relationships are key when being a creator, right? You can't just lean on the fact that somebody got a blue check, that you got a blue check, that you got a whole bunch of followers. You have to utilize the relationships that are around you, whether if it's from where you started, where you currently are, or where you're going. And so I just drew out a little bit of a picture of what that looks like. Investing in yourself, to go to conferences, to go to an event, sending out cold pitches via email. Don't just DM people, send emails, follow up. If someone does not respond after 7 days, I have a 3-time follow-up rule. Tap into different influencer marketing departments and try to have coffee chats on Zoom or in person. In-person conversations are fruitful because there's a lot that can be said in over person that can't be said over an email. Tap into influencer and PR agencies and network collateral. Those people that you probably were in class studying with. I literally just had this conversation with someone at brunch before this. There's people that I was in class studying with, getting Starbucks with, stressed out in the library with, that are execs today that I know I could call on, that I could lean on. If I have something, I know who to call at Sony. I know who to call at Viacom. I know who to call at BET. Like, you know, those are the people that I grew up and I came up with, and now they're here. So network laterally. And then we could just head to the next slide.
Yeah, definitely. And I think definitely just while we head to the next slide, when it comes to presence, like stressing the importance of your presence. And I get it. A lot of people are shy. A lot of people, you know, and trust me, I am also shy at times. I'm
shy.
I just like, my admirations is bigger than my shyness. So if I end up looking stupid, I end up looking stupid. Oh well. But I think that presence is important. Like, I literally remember myself going to each and every panel, events, and sometimes being the first or the only person to stand up or ask a question in rooms of hundreds of people that I did not know. I still have pictures and videos of those days. And it's like, those are times that builds character. You know, those are times that build leadership. You know, so it's definitely important, you know, to just make sure your presence is felt. Whether you say or don't say anything, you always want your presence to be felt.
Yeah. I feel like people really sleep on the soft skills, right? Like, people are always like, the brands and the opportunities are looking for the followers and for the numbers. But in addition to those, right, in addition to all the numbers and the metrics, they're also looking for people who have, one, a purpose, who's driven beyond like the numbers, who's driven beyond what they're going to get for them. Soft skills are pretty much just like communication skills, punctuality, being kind, things that are very like soft.
Punctuation is the biggest.
Literally, like, that's why I put here, like, what brands and businesses are looking for in a pitch to publish process, whether if you're pitching to a company to partner with them or whether if you're pitching to a brand to be their influencer. Punctuality is a huge thing. Please do not send an email trying to pitch yourself and respond the next week after they didn't already respond. Like, be punctual, make sure the grammar is right. Like, if you're struggling with grammar, like, I download Grammarly to make sure like I got my punctuation and stuff together. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you spell the brand correctly. Make sure you know who the founder is in case you walk in a room and you see them. Make sure you have quality content and a credible background. There should always be a clear understanding of what a goal is when you're trying to partner with someone, and know what that other person is going to benefit from working with you. I'm pretty sure that Jack Daniels knew.
I literally said that in my breakout session that I just had.
Yeah.
Super important when you partner with, or when you're seeking to partner with somebody, to know what you want to partner on and why you want to partner with them, and what can not only you gain, but what can they gain from this partnership, right? Sometimes, 9 times out of 10, we are pitching to brands that are bigger than us,
right,
or bigger than our brands. So it's important. Like for me, I make a list, sometimes yearly, sometimes quarterly, on all the brands that I potentially want Tier to partner with, or want to partner with myself. And that comes from me knowing my alignment. That knows from me knowing the alignment of Tier. That knows from me knowing what type of brand, I want this to be, and things like that. Because like I said, a partnership can make or break you. Like not all good partnerships are great partnerships, and not all good partnerships are meaningful or impactful or purposeful. So, the biggest thing is to always know, what direction do you want to take a partnership in? I'm big on not letting nobody else steer your ship. And if it's a collaborative effort, there's going to be 2 steering wheels, but y'all going to make sure that it works well and moving in cohesive, not 2 steering wheels. Like the rowboat that needs 2 people. Like you need 2 people to make the same motions to go forward, right? So that's kind of what I look at it as. Like, what can this company gain by working with me? What can I gain by working with them? What is the overall mission? Even down to the bigger fact of seeing what they're working on. Because a lot of times you may want to work with a company and they may not want to work on your idea at the time, because they're focused. A lot of companies plan quarters in ahead, 2 quarters in ahead, a year in advance. So they may already have initiatives and things going on. So one thing that I would do is say, hey, I have this and this. I would love to get to know what your company is working on now, to see how we can align, right? So even if there isn't a clear conversation, seeing what they're working on. And obviously that all comes from knowing the right people and actually doing the work, because a lot of this comes from doing the work.
Right.
And as a brand, you should be getting reached out more to than pitching. That's how I personally feel.
I agree. And one thing that I also didn't put here that you touched on is get in person. I'm a very people person, but I also have social anxiety. So sometimes I struggle to get into rooms and stuff because it's just a lot. But get in person, feel people's energy. There's been plenty of times a brand had to check to pay the full rate, and I had to say no because the energy was off. And a couple weeks or years later, God reveals to me why. The answer was why the energy was off. So don't ever not trust what you're feeling, not trust your intuition, because usually if the energy's off, there's a reason why it is. Trust that, regardless of how big the brand is and how much money they could be offering. I also we are almost at time, so I want to get through the last few slides, and I got a few questions in the chat. We're not going to be able to go over this entire slide right here, but really get the brand's attention, y'all. If you're creating content to build your brand, you want to be able to do more than just hop on a trending sound. You want to post content that the brand likes to see, but also resonates with your story. Pay attention to what hashtags brands are following, because there may be some other things that you can incorporate in your content and in your story. Pay attention to who they've worked with. Are they working with Black creators? Are they paying Black creators? You can see that through ad hashtags, through paid FTC guidelines that are required to be on post. Pay attention to if they are only working with Black creators when it's convenient around Juneteenth and Black History Month. Do your research, go on their website, see who their PR agency is. I sometimes even check the founder's tweets because I want to know if you really like Black people sometimes. I'm checking everything, okay? I got a degree in lurkology. Shoot, if you can stalk that ex-boyfriend, you can stalk that brand too, okay? Then you want to go to making sure that you are tagging the brand, interacting with the brand, organically posting about the brand and talking about it. And then let's just head on to the next slide.
I think one thing that I want to say, I know I'm gonna try to be super brief, but definitely important. There was something you just said about if they only support brands when it's convenient.
Mhm.
That is the highlight of 2020 and onward.
Listen,
People who get it, get it. If you don't, you need to get in tune.
yeah,
Because I promise you, a lot of these brands do not care as much as they say they do. And it shows. Look at the rate of collaborations with Black-owned brands now compared to 2020 and 2021, right? Because they feel like we're transitioning out of that season of always having to be there for us,
yeah,
right? And bigger than that, what 2020 and 2021 showed me is that people see you. They see you. Because when it was time to reach out to these brands, they knew where to go to, who to reach out to,
yep.
Y and Z. So you mean to tell me you couldn't do your job prior? Because that's doing your job. If a brand wants to partner, a part of people's job is searching for brands to work with, searching for partners to work with. You know, so please also do not be fooled and tricked by these partnerships. As good as they might sound sometimes. Know who's working with you because they genuinely care about what you do versus who wants to work with you or who you want to work with. That may just be a ploy. You know,
That's good. That's real good. And something that Nigeria also said was that you be ahead of the game. Most of these brands plan things quarters ahead. And that's why I included this slide. And it's crazy, y'all, because I don't even think Nigeria saw this slide before we started, right? Like I planned this and I wanted it to be purposely like you didn't know what you were going to get yourself into. So it could be.
No, I did not know any of this.
It's crazy how in sync this whole conversation is. But I put this slide here so you guys can be mindful of the different quarters in a year. These are the quarters that majority of the corporations that we know, corporate everything follows, right? So the Walmarts of the world, the Wayfairs, the Alibabas, the Amazons, they all follow this quarter, right? So like you want to think of key holiday and big moments that are happening in these quarters. Now we're about to transition into Q3, which is summer, back to school, college, back to work. You want to consider all of those things when you're pitching brands, when you're coming up with creative concepts. Q4 is also around the corner where it's big on holiday. This is the most lucrative quarter of every year where brands are spitting out money. Okay, so you want to come up with those creative concepts now for Q3 and Q4. You want to start pitching now. I'm already halfway through booking and pitching for Q3. Q4 is going to be up next. You want to be always ahead of the game. Don't wait last minute, and just also think about how you can meet the needs of the brand during those seasons.
Definitely. And it's super important, once again, if we're in Q3, you should not be reaching out in Q3.
Correct.
Most brands operate on a 6-month timeline. So 3 is even pushing it. Like they operate semi-annually or a year before when it comes to projects, especially if you're a company that has to produce a service, right? Like I know naturally, no matter what, it takes me 2 to 3 months to produce product. We have to go through sampling, we have to go through fitting, we have to go through getting the product made. So I know that I can't promise anybody if it's something that's like super technical that I can have it to them within a month. So it's also being realistic and not realistic, but having that system of your brand and your strategies, you know, like how long does it take you to complete a project? How long does it take you or your production to get from point A to B, right? And always on top of that, when you know that, give yourself that room also forever. But like steaks, because you may think something that's going to take two months now, it turns into 5 months, turns to 6 months, it turns to 8 months. You know, so being realistic with timing, like timing is everything. Like if there's one thing I'm big on above everything, it's timing, because contradictory to what everybody may say, there is a such thing as missing the right time. It is. There is a such thing as things missing you.
Wow, that's good. Now there's a few questions in the chat, so we're going to transition over into Q&A right now. And I'm going to answer the first one in Nigeria. I'm going to ask you this next one. The first question is, how do we keep relationships from feeling transactional? Or is that okay? Actually, I want you to touch on this too, if you would like, because yeah, I was gonna say I struggled with this for the longest, right? I was like, I hate transactional relationships. I cannot stand sharks that they just want from you. They just want to know what they can get from you, and that's it. And I had to learn through therapy and through honestly business that some relationships are simply just going to be transactional, right? And you have to sometimes take your emotions out of the business and move with strategy and practicality. Now, there are also other relationships that are 10 times deeper that will have that genuine relation, that genuine connection that will probably bear more fruit than just being transactional because there's an actual connection there. I've learned to kind of be okay with the different tiers of relationships. Can you share what your perspective on that is?
To know me is to love me.
I'm just trying to judge fairly, like Nigeria, would you say that the success of the Jack Daniels relationship is transactional, or is it that what Asa was mentioning about being 10 times deeper? Because like if the brand has money and they give it, thank you, thank you, and like let's also work. I'm just not sure how to judge when it's okay to be transactional and when it's not.
I think it's the like people. One, you know, you can tell when things are going to be trend. Like, I don't know, like look, let me not speak for everybody. For me, sometimes, like most times I can tell the difference between like relationships. Like I feel like I'm very in like tune with energy and my own emotions and how I like to be perceived and what I like to do. That for me, I can pick up when people really want to build a relationship with me, or people just want something from me. And both are fine, because I don't I'm also not a person that I love who I love. I'm cool who I'm cool with, and I am perfectly okay with that.
Yeah.
But I think bigger than that is knowing, once again, the type of relationships that you do want to have. For me, for Jack Daniels, I think that partnership was really well, and it wasn't transactional because I went through that they hired an agency that does a lot of the work, and it just so happens that Dev knew some of the people in the agency from past and prior work, and I'm meeting them, and they're all also young Black creators that are building and have their own agency that are doing things. And we just got a chance to connect a lot offline too, from having text group chats to like just going out for drinks or just like hanging out. So I got to know them more as like people versus the partnership that we're working on. But then when it was business time, like we're talking in language of partnership and work in like business, and I think one thing that any founder or brand owner or anything should be good at is knowing when to turn it off and on, because you have to realize that you can't be friends and buddy and everything. Like it is time to be serious and it's time to play. So I think that partnership went really well because not only did I get to meet the Jack Daniels team, I got to meet the agency team, and we got to actually build outside of the partnership. And Christopher Kites, who was also one of the other designers, me and him got to build a beautiful relationship, like finding out how young he was and the success that he has, and how young I look compared to my actual age. Like I'm 30 years old, people think I'm 20, 21 sometimes. But to be with Christopher Kites, who has his brand, and he's 23, he just turned 24. He has received huge success, so being able to just build with other people, for me, that made it more than transactional. Because like when I went to LA a couple of weeks ago, he's like, yo, bro, pull up to the studio. And we're sitting there just having hours long of conversation about life and business and building a brand and the struggles and like what we have to go through, and changes in life, and for me, like a lot of things to me is more and like important than money, always. Like money is a vehicle that will be there to provide a lifestyle and freedom, but once again, it won't be there without the relationships you have. It won't be there without the work you do. It won't be there without the things that you willing to act like existing. So for me, money is always a product of the connections and work that you do. So granted, this Jack Daniels deal for me was the biggest deal Tier's ever had, and we've had a like pretty good like amount of deals where at one point I said, oh, this is a lot of money. So yeah, like that was I would say that one was really that was a meaningful partnership, and that was something that I've definitely seen more as like we built versus it being just transactional. But like I said, like, there's also nothing wrong with those transactional like relationships, but it's knowing what you want from anybody that you work with. A lot of times, I don't like working with people that just want something from me.
Right.
Because a lot of times what people want from me, I can do for myself. And that's what I meant in the value of doing the work yourself. For me, I've done so much things myself only because when I partner with people, I want to be able to show you, like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I can do it with or without you. A partnership should never depend on the other person. For me, right? Because, like y'all should both have leverage, especially if you're a smaller brand.
Absolutely.
Like, you should always have that leverage, and like letting that work speaks. The best partnerships come from when they reach out to you because they see the work that you do. They see what you've done for the community. They've seen how your brand or yourself has impacted a space or a group or a state or a region, So I think like it's just like those things are like super, super important.
The next question is, how do you identify your brand's strongest offers for return on investment?
Easily,
And
with the most money from.
Yeah, and I also want to say to this too is sometimes return on investment can be not monetary. Sometimes you can drive traffic and awareness to brands. The top 3 KPIs that I've seen that brands want is either sales, awareness, or traffic. Awareness and traffic make people consider buying.
Those are the bigger things.
Right.
Because when we didn't have money, we offered what we had. And
right.
Most times that's an extensive subscription list, because I knew whenever to have a like Vince, make sure people sign up. Make sure there's a clause in there that people should read, like, hey, when you're signing this thing, you're signing up to receive messages, so and so. The biggest thing is building your own community and building your own audience, because 9 out of 10, when you work with brands, especially that's not in your market, they don't have that audience. And the best thing that anybody can get, you or a different brand, is a new audience, a new customer base. That's, we talk about customer retention, which is keeping your customer. And then we talk about customer acquisition, which is expanding your brand and going to new markets. And when you partner with somebody, it should always be for an acquisition. Acquisition meaning you're gaining either more monetarily, or you're gaining more like awareness, or you're gaining more knowledge, right? So it's like all of these things matter. And like I said, there was times where we couldn't offer like money or anything, but we could say, hey, like, if you work with us, you can have access to our newsletter. We can, make sure that we have your logos here and here, and make sure that's advertised properly. We can and like include y'all in our email blast. We can include y'all in like social posting. We can give a thank you gifting to your whole team, where it's like you have to be creative in your ROI, but also make sure it's realistic. And also making sure that it's something that people are looking for, right? Because saying that, oh, hey, like, I've built my subscription list to 20,000 people, that's big for a brand. That's 20,000 people versus like you have like 20 people, they may or may not want to work with you. So now, once again, that goes back to doing your own brand and self-building, where it's like, how can you always get people to join a community, a website, anything? If Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all these things went down today, how else can your customer or your community reach out to you? Most times that's through newsletters. Most times that's through the text messaging marketing that we use now. Where it's like always having these different ways, but core ways for your brand to access you, or for your community to access you without the need of a social presence, because also these are things that brands look for. If I can send an email to somebody versus trying to get them to find me in a pool of social posts, which one you think is more like effective?
So good. And there's another question of how far ahead, I know you briefly mentioned this, how far ahead is ideal to reach out to partner for any quarters?
I always say 6 months or more. 6 months is the bare minimum, because just like I said, like I've had partnerships that went well. I had partnerships that didn't go well. I had partnerships that didn't happen because of timing. Like things that they probably wanted to do, but they say, oh, hey, like we've always like, also realizing that companies have budgets for each quarter.
Mhm.
I don't think that's something that we've like touched on. And if
Right.
you missed that budget, you missed your opportunity.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. No matter how much that company wants to work with you. Because like they have to get a budget approved every quarter.
Yep.
Most times, as soon as they're getting that budget approved is when they're probably prior to getting the budget approved, they're already looking who to work with. And budgets are not like approved most times the quarter before the next quarter. It's approved 6 months in advance. It's approved 8 months, 9 months in advance. You know, so if you know that next year you want to do this grand event, you should be reaching out to people from now. Like I have a partnership that I started working on in February that's not coming out till spring of next year, because that's how long these processes can take some times. You know, so I would always say time is of the essence. So the sooner the better. Definitely don't reach out to, well, you like I've definitely have reached out weeks prior to 2 months, a month prior, but that's only when I'm asking for smaller things. Like I'm not expecting a grand for like now, even I'm reaching out last minute. If it's something small, like I need a like sponsorship, I need you to just give me a couple of cases of this or donate this or do this, like that's easier. But if you're talking about building out a idea, you're talking about building out marketing, rollout, digital, all these different things, like there's so much that go into it, even from the conversations.
Yeah.
Prior, right? Like those brainstorm sessions, those creative sessions, like all these things.
Thank you, Nigeria. I feel like I learned so much, so I know so many other people have been just taking notes and learning things. If there's any other questions, add them in the chat. But I'm glad we got to have this conversation. I'm super excited for y'all also to get this deck in y'all hands, because you could just kind of write all over it, brainstorm things. And I guess if there's anything else that you want to share before we head out, before we pass it over back to the team, is there anything else?
I think we said a lot.
You've been dropping gems. Okay, I got my notebook.
Yes, guys, thank you so much. We really, really, really appreciate all the gems that you dropped on
Yes.
this Zoom call. I definitely learned a lot and can, use some of this as we continue to grow. So we thank you, because relationships are really important to us, and, to make
Right.
sure that we are bringing value to our audience and connecting them with people that we've been watching and know that you guys are killing the game and continuing to grow. So we bless your journey. And again, thank you. But yes, we have an announcement to make.
Yes, so we at the Dinner Party NYC want to remind you that we have launched our first fundraising event. This conversation was about branding and partnerships, yes, and influencer marketing, but we are also accepting donations to reach our goal of 40K. And here we're clearly listing what your coins are going to go to, producing elevated experiences. A lot of you guys know us from our annual dinner party event. Actually, I met Asa for the first time in life, those relationships. She accompanied a guest at the Dinner Party NYC, big up DP. And that's how the relationship started. And look at us. 2 years later, she's leading a conversation for Food for Thought, and we love that. Our funding is also going to small Black women-led businesses. At our last dinner party, we were able to invite folks to give you guys $1,000 and 10 businesses walked away with a stack for their businesses. And we want to keep doing things similar to that. Hiring staff so we can have staff controlling the Zoom and not us. That goes a long way in building a team, because some folks are just better at it than others, and we should be paying them for their worth and their knowledge, and also paying the folks who participate in our programming. In addition to food for thought classes like these, we have Black-owned bookstores that need staff, clothing drives, hygiene drives that we want to implement, but we just need hands, and we want to make sure that the experts are doing their best to work with us. So that's where the coins will be going. But there's another announcement on the way. So save the date. You guys are the first to find out that the Dinner Party NYC is coming back with another event. You guys, after our March annual event, blew up our DMs, blew up our messages, talking about what we were going to do next to bring people together. And that's what we love to hear. We're happy that y'all want to eat together and vibe together. So the Dinner Party NYC, you guys are hearing it first. Save the date for Saturday, August 26th. Put it on your calendar now, because we're adults now. We can't just store it up here. We've got to put it in the calendar.
I'm not remembering.
Ain't no remembering. We need it in the calendar.
We would really love
at the top, like put it at the top. More details are to come, but we thought, since this is the first of this kind, and this is the first event that we're doing of this kind, in celebration of our fundraiser, this is going to be something that you will not want to miss. You guys heard it first. So those are the announcements. If you enjoyed any part of this conversation, if you learned anything from this conversation, if you smiled, if you agreed, if you wrote something down, we do encourage you to donate to this program. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice. And one thing's for sure, the support goes a long way. Seeing you guys on the screen goes a long way, but also supporting us through donating is half the battle. With that being said, Show, did we cover all the things?
We covered all the things, and we respect your time. And
Yes.
it is hump day, 9 p.m. You had a long day. Go get some rest. Go get a snack. Go roll up. Take a
drink
shower.
water.
Bed.
Do what you gotta do.
Yes. Go relax. We love you guys. We thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you again very soon.